Time for another episode of Pottawattamie County Roots. I am Todd Studer, and we have been recording at West Fair 2026 this year. And yeah, West Fair now is over as you are watching this. However, we've got some great guests to still bring you, including this man. This is Reggie Nichols with the company Me to You, which, correct me, a good way to describe what it is that you do is you're just bringing healthcare to the home, as opposed to vice versa.
Yeah,
would that be a good way?
Yeah, yep, yeah. I heard one time, a long time ago, it's like the best name is something that just explains itself in the name.
Yeah.
So I'm just healthcare goes to you, me to you. So, and it's very few letters that you have to type out, if you're Googling it.
That's a good point too.
Yeah.
What's the response been so far as you are adding to your patient list, and your client list? What kind of feedback have you been getting from folks?
And so, in my 20s, I built a couple of not-for-profits, and so I'm accustomed to building businesses. And I'm always afraid of getting the cart ahead of the horse. And so I just really started kind of getting the word out there with you, Todd.
Yeah.
So that was the first time that when we talked before, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this, to get it out there. Because there's still some back end stuff like credentialing, some contracting stuff. I'm still waiting. But since being on with you, golly, it's almost more than I can handle.
Really?
Yeah, and I think it takes some time for people to get to understand who a person is. Like I'm in a facility or three facilities now. And so, and it takes a couple months getting to know someone, their personality. Are they dependable? Are they going to show up? Are they going to be late like I was today with someone? But but once you establish that credibility, things just kind of begin to steamroll. And so just in the last few days, things are starting to steamroll. And it's just tremendous. It's like, I feel like family. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you the last time we were together, but our goal as like a medical provider isn't to be sent a Christmas card every Christmas. It's for the family to call you and say, hey, we're doing our Christmas pictures. Come on over. We want you to be in the card with us. Oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's also a really good goal to have, because that's the level of relationship that you are trying to establish. And I would think that it's especially important in the medical industry, because there is no larger trust factor in any type of industry, I think, than when it comes to who is it that's providing your medical care.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I totally agree with that. And so I went to Vanderbilt for my nurse practitioner degree, and I can remember one of our professors, Aaron Rodgers, not the quarterback.
Not the quarterback.
No, even though Aaron Rodgers' brother did quarterback at Vanderbilt. So, anyway, no relation. This is a female. She got up and she said, "Now, guys," it was mostly girls. There were like 167 students, 16 guys. And she said, "Now, guys, one day you're going to have a mama come in with her baby, and she's going to say, 'Now, listen, there's just something ain't right with my baby.' And she said, 'You know this. There's something not right with that baby. You taking care of that baby, but you're also taking care of them emotionally. What's going on with that mom?'
Right.
And so you keep listening to that mom, and you are caring for her as well. It is a unit. And you can't do that if you don't know them, if you don't know that person. And so, yeah, absolutely. The goal is to get to know people, all the ins and outs, learn their cats. I know, I know Katie, I know Jude, and I know Baby. That's my, the three most recent cats I've been exposed to. So I don't think I've given away any health information.
No HIPAA violation.
No HIPAA violation. Yeah, but just knowing that stuff. And so, and when you topically, you get to know someone initially, you kind of find out kind of what's going on, but it's not until a little later you find out really the depth of what's going on.
You bring up a good point with the mother that comes in and there's just something not right about my kid. It is not always, okay, A plus B, we know where this is going here.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a little finesse.
Yeah.
Sometimes everything doesn't fit neatly inside of a box.
Yeah, yeah, man, that is true. Yeah, in the field of, a couple of phrases really stand out to me as far as phrases that I've heard in training. Number one is, when you're a hammer, every problem is a nail. So if I'm a pulmonologist and I see someone struggling to breathe, they're like, oh, that's a lung issue, I can fix that. Okay, the reality, it may be a heart issue. So that's one phrase. Another is, when you hear hoofbeats, you think horses, not zebras. So typically in medical care, you treat the horse.
Right.
Sometimes they don't follow, they are the zebra. And so, and we talked about this earlier, but having the time to sit with someone, getting to know them well, it requires time to do that. And so being able to sit down and do the research, figure out, well, if this is a zebra, what might it be? Determining what it is, and then determining, okay, what are the backgrounds, what are the causes of it, and then determining, okay, what could be the solutions. I think that's kind of hits the nail on the head of what infant primary care offers. The opportunity to do all that stuff, to do all the research, figure things out. And at some point in medicine, when you get into these situations where A plus B doesn't equal C anymore, it equals something else, you got to think outside the box. And so at that point, it moves from a science to an art in medicine. And so having the time to figure out what's going on, what are the potential solutions, that's when it becomes the art. And I say that with my patients all the time. I'm like, I don't know what the heck's going on, but we're going to research it together and we're going to try to figure it out. And then I get permission. Are you okay? Because this isn't a science thing anymore. Because this isn't meeting you where you are, but it is an actual art. So are you okay with us trying to figure some things out? Not once have I ever heard no.
Are you able to have a conversation with somebody like that because it's not taking place in a clinical situation? Because oftentimes, going to the doctor, going into the clinic or the doctor's office or whatever, there's a lot of people ahead of you. There's a lot of people behind you.
Yeah.
And they have to keep things moving. Now, I'm not saying that they don't take the time to figure out what's actually going on, but there is a certain time urgency there.
Yeah.
Do you think that doing it the way that you're doing it helps ease that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. And I even sometimes when I'm with people, they'll start apologizing when we get over an hour. It's and I'm like, I just have to affirm them. You are not an inconvenience to me. You're the only one that exists today. So I'm with you totally. And so people understanding, it's like, well, I'm not an inconvenience. I have a need. And then having somebody there who's going to listen, I think it's kind of like gives a fresh air to that individual so they can breathe. But yeah, I do think that the way the system is set up now, it's like the herd mentality. And I'm not saying that that's bad. It is absolutely necessary. But yeah, you're not given the time. You don't have the time as a medical provider to search deeply when medicine, if the science does become an art. You don't have the time to delve into that and research on the spot. Instead, you take it home and you take time away from your family as a medical provider to do the research while everybody's in bed, that sort of thing. And so if people are willing to do that, a medical provider is willing to do that. So yeah, I think a time factor is huge.
Primrose Retirement Community in Council Bluffs believes home should be a place of comfort, connection, and care. From personalized support to engaging daily activities, everything they do is designed to help residents live fully and confidently. At Primrose, that's their priority, to put the quality of their residents' care and daily needs at the top of their list each day and every day. It's not just about where you live, it's about how you live. Learn more about life at Primrose by going to primroseretirement.com and then contact Jamie Bush at Primrose and discover a place that truly puts people first. Turn your business vision into a digital presence that gets noticed with Just Sue Creative. Founder Sue Pitts brings more than 20 years of small business development experience to every project, combining strategy with custom website design, SEO, branding, content creation, and marketing. Whether you need to build your online foundation, reach more customers, or just sharpen your message. Sue creates a budget-friendly plan tailored to your goals. Schedule your free consultation today at justsuecreative.com.
How much of an advantage is it to you to actually be in someone's living environment as you are trying to zero in and pinpoint what ailment they may have? How much being in that environment yourself does that help?
Yeah, sometimes in everything. So back when I was doing palliative care, I remember going into a guy's home and had recurrent pneumonia just over and over and over. And they were just treating the pneumonia, going to the home, and they're in the mountains of North Carolina. It's hot, humidity's high, no air conditioning, there's mold in the house. So the agency I was with at the time, we put in an air conditioner, no more pneumonia. So sometimes you just see the settings and you like, oh, well, that's playing into what's going on.
Could they get a prescription for an air conditioner? Is that how that works?
You know what? I have attempted to influence Aetna to cover bidets. I have, really. So yeah, absolutely. I think, and I plan on writing a paper about that at some point. Just
That would be a
get a
fascinating thing.
prescription for air conditioner and bidets.
You have a different perspective, and I think the different perspective comes from changing the environment in which you're working.
Yeah.
And your environment changes every day.
It does. Yeah. But sometimes it's enjoyable. Sometimes it's not enjoyable. But man, it's always just a beautiful part of the journey as far as like, well, what I'm going to experience now.
Well, that's a great way to look at it, though, too, is that this is an adventure, and we're going to find out just what the day brings to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can see how having a changing environment, it's kind of like, when I came here to West Fair, this gets me out of the studio.
Uh-huh.
Got all the same equipment here.
Uh-huh.
You can probably see some of the same stuff that you saw in the studio during the last time that we talked.
Uh-huh.
But being in a different environment adds a new energy.
Yeah.
And it puts my mind into a different place, and I think about different things. So yeah, I can only imagine what it's like for you.
Yeah, I could, for some reason right now during my training as a nurse practitioner back in 2014, I would see about 20, 22, 24 patients per day. And I can remember standing on the outside of the rooms thinking, okay, I got to do this. This person's in this room. This person's in this room. How do I phrase things in such a way where they're not going to give me too much information, because I've got to move on to the next person. Mm-hmm. And it's just really high stress. And then at the same time trying to document and all that stuff. And, but now when I enter someone's home, it's a fresh visit. I want to see somebody who's smiling, who's ready to see me. I'm excited to see them. Find out what's going on. Like, hey, tell me what's happened since I saw you last week or a couple of days ago. And so, yeah, it is absolutely just like it's a time of socialization, so with each other. Yeah, at the same time, we're taking care of medical. So I'd say half the time people say, hey, you want a cup of coffee? Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I take them up on it, sometimes not. But when I was in the clinic setting, no one ever volunteered to give me a cup of coffee.
Well, that's a really good point.
The clinic I was working in.
Obviously. Yeah. I keep going back to that thing that you were talking about with, sometimes medicine is an art. And, well, that kind of makes you an artist when it comes down to, can you look outside the box and see whether or not, you talked about horse versus zebra. If horse is usually going to be it, mm-hmm. How quickly can you eliminate that as an option? That's got to be, it's got to be tough to leave your mind that open to be able to finesse that kind of thing.
Yeah, and there are a lot of different ways to tackle medical issues. So, like reflux, you can handle it with a PPI, you can handle it with some antihistamine type. And so flushing out, okay, is it still a science? You have to flush out all that first, because that's where the evidence base comes in. And that's where all your studies, they're the ones that come out and say, yeah, we've encountered this before, and this is what we see that works. But sometimes none of that is true. No one's done the studies on exactly what you're dealing with. So just fleshing out what works scientifically, And then at that point, saying, okay, well, this is something new. This is going to take some time, but we're in this thing together, and I'm going to help you every way I know how. And then getting their agreement to enter in that process with you to try to help them figure out what's going on. Yeah, it does take some time. The question was how long. It depends on the person, depends on the issue, depends on how agreeable a person is initially. I think to understand this is something that's you're experiencing that isn't the norm. It just depends on a lot of different factors.
Finding the right care for a loved one can feel overwhelming. Assisted Living Locators is here to help. Jean Bonker brings more than 30 years of experience serving families and has personally navigated the challenges of elder care. She understands the questions, the emotions, and the weight of these decisions. Jean becomes your advocate, guiding you through options with clarity, compassion, and personal support every step of the way. Call Assisted Living Locators at 402-690-5467 and move forward with confidence. Are you in the market for stylish, locally curated fashion that's close to home? Visit Unique Boutique Iowa in Neola at 101 4th Street, your destination for trendy clothing, accessories, and distinctive gifts. Open on the weekends, Saturdays 10 to 2, Sundays 11 to 3. You can always shop online at shopubiowa.com.
There has to be a certain comfort level coming from the patient side, though, knowing that if this is an issue that they've been dealing with for a while and you're just not finding any answers, that, all right, now I got somebody in my corner that is not going to quit just because it didn't fit neatly into a box.
And one phrase I have heard a lot in my practice and my career is you're willing to do what no one else is willing to do. And so, of course, as a medical provider, you have to do it the right way, but sometimes you really have to jump through hoops to do that thing that needs to be done. And so, it is a breath of fresh air. And I think a lot of times also as a medical provider, we forget that we bring our personality, we bring who we are into that relationship. It's not a job. And for a lot it is, but it's more of like, okay, this is an expression of who I am. This is what I'm called to do in my life. And man, I'm going to be the very best I could possibly be for this person in this moment. And I'm not just going to go in, I'm going to prescribe an antibiotic and say, all right, we'll see you next week or whatever, And so I think that I'm kind of chasing rabbits here, but I do think it would benefit medicine and nursing just in general to have more emphasis on taking you as a person and integrating that into what you do, because you're going to get a lot better results when you're all in and you're not just treating it, the way the book says that you should treat it. And so, just talked a complete circle there.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
All right. Yeah.
No, you're still with me here with this, and
they receive comfort, just knowing that I'm going to be in there with them. Absolutely.
I'm thinking of a situation, coming up on 6 years ago now is when my dad passed. And he was, this is obviously the fall, first year of COVID. So it was getting even in to see him was really difficult.
Yeah.
But they sent him home without a diagnosis. And they weren't able to do it, and ended up sending the samples to Johns Hopkins, who were able to diagnose him 2 days before he passed. So we didn't know what was going on. Now, the thing is that even if we had known, I don't think there's anything they can do about it. He had angiosarcoma. And it was very advanced, and it was attacking his liver. And that's where all the liver problems were coming from. But they couldn't figure out, they couldn't find a cause for it. So I don't know that, even had they been able to diagnose it immediately, I don't know that there would have been any treatment for it. However, it was the unknown part that we really struggled with. And like I said, sometimes it just takes a while. So sometimes you got to stick with it. And like I said, as you're talking about that, I was just thinking about this situation that, I've been there. I've sat in that chair. It wasn't me personally. It was my dad, but still, the unknown. But having somebody that's not quitting on you, just because, okay, we found something that checks some of the boxes, so we'll just let that go. I think that's an important part of it.
I agree. And for me as an individual, Yeah, I find tremendous fulfillment in being able to just rest with people. Sure, you get what I'm saying when I say rest, just be.
Yeah.
You know, in an environment with a patient or a patient and their family, and just talking about the reality of like, this is what's happening. And is that me?
I think so.
Sheesh, I don't know. Oh, it's an alarm.
Oh, is that
Yeah, it's an alarm. Yeah, it's time to get up from my nap 3 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
And just so you know, when you go back and watch this show, you're going to see that. I'm not taking
okay.
it
All
out.
right, cool. Well, I'm awake. Yeah. Yeah. So just being with people and also sharing the reality of what's next.
Mhm.
And then like, okay, you have between 3 and 8 days to live based on some liver issues, like you just mentioned. And so in my best, professional opinion, normally you wouldn't give a prognosis like that, but sometimes you just see it so much, you kind of know what to expect. And then they'll say, you mean I'm experiencing that now? Right? And just resting with them so they can take that in and realize, this could be one of the last few times I'm able to spend time with my dad, who has failing liver.
Yeah.
I find tremendous fulfillment in that because that's how life. And some people deal with the most difficult components of life. A lot of times it's death or severe illness. I'm tremendously fulfilled by that.
Yeah, that's a powerful thing
Yeah.
that you're talking about there.
Yeah.
Because it is something that a lot of us, we don't want to think about it.
No.
We don't think about the way things are going to be at the end.
Yeah.
However, and again, don't want to turn it too much into a therapy session, but
okay.
I know that the very last thing that my father ever said to me was, "I love every last one of you." And that's a gift that can't be replicated.
Yeah.
To know that was the last thing he said
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
And I get to carry that with me,
Uh-huh.
knowing that. And I even used that when I gave his eulogy. That was the last line of the eulogy
Uh-huh.
for me to the people that were there, because that was a lesson that my father gave me.
Yeah.
That's an end of life thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a lot of beauty in it, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm going through Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning again. And so I was listening to it actually coming here today, but he talks about how kind of in the end, when everything's stripped away, what means the most to you. And then that's when it kind of boils down like to who you are as an individual. You come to that realization. And I live next to Fairview Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
So I get up nowadays almost every morning and I'll run through that graveyard, the cemetery. Inevitably I'll stop and I'll think about, who is this person? Like there's just one who's in headstone and it's like this younger guy and he says, "I love you the most," and I said it first. And I'm like, man, there's a story of
Yeah.
and so but it makes me think, did I tell my kids today, "I love you the most," and I said it first, which we always say, "I love you the most, plus I declare you a deaf mute with no extremities, no hands." I said, "No, you're deaf and you're blind, no hands, no extremities, no ability to nod your head and blink your eyes." That's, in other words, I love you the most. Just in the day, there's no way they can respond at all. That's what we say, but that's way too much to put on a headstone. So
That would be pretty small font.
Yeah.
Or a big headstone, either way.
that is true, yeah. But it does kind of like just force you to stop for a second and say, what is most important in life? What's the last thing I want to tell my son? That I love them, and it's important to live by that. But I think sadly, I think a lot of times we don't. Don't want to be negative, but we just kind of like, well, this is what I got to do today. My schedule kind of drives the day instead of my intentions. Today I want to love somebody. So that's the win. Not getting done with my schedule.
You came to the fair today wanting to have an existential conversation.
I
Right?
came to the fair exactly, and also have some of those steak bites.
Oh, they were good,
They're
weren't they?
delicious, man.
Yeah. By the way, Donnie, rustic cuts, well done. Those are really, really good. And so I am definitely a fan of that. We've talked to a lot of people while we're out here at the fair. We've talked with people who have had a history, grew up coming to West Fair every year. this is your first time ever on the grounds.
Yeah, I've driven by
Because-
here a few times.
Because you're newer to the area, less than a year, right?
Oh yeah, December 22nd.
Yeah. So we're at about you moved in wintertime. Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, yeah,
So what's your impression coming out here to West Fair?
yeah. So it's kind of overcast and rainy, so there aren't a whole lot of people here. So I didn't have to stand in line for food.
Yeah.
I love that. I thought of that immediately when I came in. Yeah, man, it's just really laid back. Yeah, Lou, somebody,
Lucy, yeah.
Lucy, yeah, she came up and brought some smoothie.
Yeah.
And how awesome was that? I mean, that's Midwestern love right there.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got it going on all over the fairgrounds
Yeah.
out here. And it's you see old friends, you meet new ones, and that's the whole point to it. So I'm glad I got to be here for your first experience at West Fair.
Yeah.
Should come back tonight and bring your wife for the tractor pull.
Yeah,
There you go.
I didn't know that was happening tonight.
That's happening tonight.
Okay, cool, man. I'm going to go watch some judging, some pig judging.
Yeah.
Yeah, pig showing. Yeah, just a little bit.
Yep, that's coming up. So
I'm excited about that.
Yep, you're all of these very, very Iowa experiences
Yeah.
you're having here. Well, Reggie Nichols, thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thanks,
I
bud.
appreciate getting a
Hey,
chance
always.
to talk to you.
Yeah.
It's I love what you do.
Thanks.
I love the service that you brought to the area. I think it's needed. I think you're fitting an area that kind of has been overlooked
No.
for a while in the medical industry. And it's important
Yeah.
that we have somebody like you out there doing
Thanks.
this kind of work. So
Thanks.
thank you so much for that.
I appreciate that, Todd.
We also thank you for watching this episode of Pottawattamie County Roots. Also, we thank one of our hometown sponsors. That would be Brewed Awakening in Avoca. So stop in, see Bella, have a great cup of coffee. Tell her you heard about it right here on The Roots Show. My name is Todd Studer. We'll see you next time.